about malls. So there's been much to do about Gen Z, millennials killing malls. Why don't we have anywhere to go? Where do the kids need to go? Part of the problem is when malls were designed, it was a destination. It was a place you had to get in your car and go to. Lots of parking, lots of suburban commutes. It really wasn't designed as a place to be. And I think that's something we've lost and something people really want. Today, fast forward, how many malls have been destroyed? How many malls are abandoned? How many malls are struggling to reposition? This is happening across the country, but we've got a unique opportunity right here in St. Louis. Okay, I'm not suggesting that Hot Topic and Claire's is an economic development strategy, but what I am saying is that when you have acres of parking lots just like this that actually right now are for sale and actually are empty, if you can see, is that you can take these acres of sites. They're all next to utilities. They're easy to develop. They're already graded. You could turn that into a new urbanist community. Imagine townhouses, imagine places for people to live, imagine apartments, not necessarily affordable, but places where people are living and working for a specific set. I think we get lost in this idea that everything has to be affordable, everything has to be standalone. I think when you start to build real estate products that are consumer driven for a distinct customer base, we're going to start to get a lot better outcomes. And I think we're going to get a lot more clarity on the conversations we have about what goes where, why, and how we build it. Okay, look, this isn't just some crazy idea. In fact, right down here, that's where the second phase of the mall that's been already built is going to go. So right across the street, you've got a waterway car wash, you've got highway access, you've got shopping, you've got Brentwood Plaza, you've got a metro station. You're only, let's say, 2 stops or 3 stops away from the Shrewsbury station. You've got an area over here that I don't think is usable if I think about the property listing, but how about we build a little park right here? How about we do something that's another amenity or an attraction that might be something that young families would be desirous of, as opposed to living in University City or Ladue, Clayton. We could actually get some housing right in here. If you notice this building right over here, that's senior living. Why not have a continuum of housing that gets people from this community and this mixed use environment all the way into senior living? I don't know, just an idea. Okay, look, maybe you do want to go to Hot Topic, and that's no problem. You can go to the mall and do that anywhere. But what if this was not a Macy's? What if this was some other building? What if this was a different kind of experience in a mall? I don't know, that dome, can't beat it. When you get into a building this size, you start to ask questions like, what on earth do I even do with this? When you start talking about $200, $300 a square foot to reposition some of these assets, the numbers get astronomical. So then you have to start thinking creatively, like what is the incremental development that I could do that may not make sense in the long run, but that gets me on the ladder to doing something else that creates value, creates interest, that something can be built on. Okay, but for real though, this is a strategy that works in suburban malls, also for affluent malls. Right here, we're right off Lindbergh and in Frontenac, in the parking lot of the Plaza Frontenac. Now I just want you to imagine for a minute that this is filled with $1 million townhomes. Okay, look, we're gonna use our imagination for a second to think about what this might look like. That's the entrance to Neiman Marcus right here. This whole boulevard should be a promenade. Imagine luxurious spaces to hang out, covered, lots of tree space, right next to townhouses, new urbanists, so narrow streets, wide sidewalks, lots of trees, in the same style as Plaza Frontenac. So it doesn't look like it's just some development that got plopped in here after the fact. You could integrate all of this so that it looks uniform and so that it maintains the feel and the vibe that people are used to. That's so important. When you put things that are incongruous next to one another, it makes a lot of people have to think, what is this? Why are they doing that? And from an aesthetic standpoint, we already have good design that's appealing, that's attractive, that when people can just comfortably move from the commercial space into the retail space and the residential space, and then also next door into the other spaces, that makes it a lot easier to sell the value, create the demand, and get more capital to get involved. Okay, Dave, so what about the through traffic? Well, here's the thing. When you create density here, you also create a disincentive for people to navigate all throughout the infrastructure that you've built. So a lot of this through traffic can get realigned. And now guess what you've got? You've got opportunity for people to feel comfortable taking their kids on a walk in a stroller. This would be a terrific place for that. I can go from Lifetime Fitness, where they've got daycare amenities. I can park up there. Maybe I live halfway in between. I can walk right up here to Brio, Bricktops, and Flower Child. Now, all this parking space can actually facilitate the transient traffic. The rest of the space can be an amenity for the residents. Underneath Plaza Frontenac, there's a ton of parking. Just like at the Galleria, there's a whole parking structure that is grossly underused compared to all of the surface lots. So when we combine these things, you're creating a mixed-use district in a way that we all talk about that we want. So the haters are gonna say, Dave, what do you mean? We can't do this at our mall. Well, look, they did it at the Chesterfield Mall. Not all malls are gonna be candidates for this because you can't always carve out the middle. Like the Galleria and Plaza Frontenac, you're not gonna do it there. But I'll tell you what, all this land around me, they haven't quite announced what it's gonna be, but I'll tell you what it is gonna be. It's gonna be some apartments, it's gonna be some office, it's gonna be some townhouses. In fact, they've already built some right down here. You know what else they built? A lot of walking trails, a lot of connectivity to the assets they already have in Chesterfield. They built residences, they built townhouses, they've built apartments, all next to the highway and 64, also next to a new hotel and some other amenities. This is a new downtown in Chesterfield. You could do that in Frontenac, you could do that at the Galleria. We don't have to worry about there just being one downtown or downtown and Clayton. There's room for all of this, and the more we attract and the more we make it an available amenity and an available opportunity, people will self-select into where they feel the most comfortable, and that's okay. Oh yeah, who'd want to live by this? Or who'd want to live in that? This feels totally cramped and overwhelming, right? It's too bad they've got this huge lake behind us and walking trails all around. That's the beauty of the design. All right, I know this has been a long one, but I want to make one last point. Assets like this weren't the cause of the development. The development brought the assets like this. I think a lot of times we think, well, if we build all the housing, then the people will come. Or if we build all the amenities, then the people will come. And in fact, it's a little bit of a give and take. You got to get the thesis for the investment to create the amenities that create the value that also reinforce the idea of why we're building this project in the first place. I hope that's the lesson you take away from this, is that there's opportunities all around, but if we just built the housing, that doesn't mean it'll work. If we just do the commercial, it doesn't mean it'll work. It's got to work together, and that's how you get value, that's how you create an investment thesis, and that's how you tell a story.